Gnostic symbols were far more than mere decorative elements or simple identifiers for different groups. They served as potent visual keys to unlocking the intricate and often deliberately veiled theological and cosmological framework of the various Gnostic schools. In a time when literacy was less widespread and direct expression of potentially heretical ideas could be dangerous, symbols provided a powerful and multifaceted means of communication and understanding within initiated communities. The complexity of Gnostic thought is mirrored in the layered meanings embedded within their symbols. A single image could simultaneously represent cosmic structures which depict the hierarchy of the pleroma, the lower realms, and the relationship between them, or divine entities which encode the attributes and roles of various eons, the monad, the demiurge, and other spiritual beings. There's also the psychological process, which illustrates the inner journey of the soul, the struggle between the spiritual and material aspects of human existence, and the path to Gnosis. There's also ritualistic significance, which holds specific meaning within Gnostic rituals and initiations, acting as focal points for meditation or contemplation. Then you have secret knowledge, which functions as a mnemonic device or coded message that can only be fully understood by those initiated into the specific teachings of a particular Gnostic sect. Because Gnosticism was not a unified religion, the interpretation of these symbols represents a significant challenge for modern scholars. The meaning of a serpent to the Ophites, for example, could differ considerably from its symbolic use in Valentinianism or other Gnostic schools. The deliberate secrecy surrounding Gnostic teachings also means that the full and intended meanings of many symbols may remain elusive. The Gnostic tendency to syncretize, that is, combine or attempt to combine different beliefs, practices, or schools of thought, often without critical examination or logical unity, with other religious and philosophical traditions, further complicates the interpretations of their symbols. They often adopted existing symbols from Egyptian mythology, Greek philosophy, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, and early Christianity, imbuing them with new Gnostic significance. Understanding the original context of these borrowed symbols is crucial for deciphering their Gnostic usage. In an era preceding mass literacy and widespread communication, visual symbols held immense power. They could transcend linguistic barriers and communicate complex ideas in a concise and memorable form. For Gnostics, these symbols served as a shared language that fostered a sense of community and allowed for the transmission of their unique understanding of the universe and the divine. In the Genesis story within mainstream Judeo-Christianity, the serpent is the tempter, leading humanity into sin and disobedience by encouraging Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. Gnosticism flips this narrative. Many Gnostic texts view the serpent as a benefactor of humanity. By enticing Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, the serpent is seen as awakening them to the knowledge of good and evil, breaking the unwitting servitude by the ignorant or malevolent creator God. This act of disobedience is reinterpreted as the dawn of true human consciousness and the first step towards Gnosis. In some Gnostic systems, the serpent is directly associated with Sophia. Sophia's desire to impart knowledge to humanity is seen as a benevolent act, and the serpent becomes her earthly agent in this endeavor. The knowledge offered is not simply intellectual, but a deeper spiritual understanding of their true nature and the cosmos. The positive or neutral symbolism of the serpent in Gnosticism draws upon older widespread beliefs in the ancient Near East and beyond. Serpents were often associated with healing and medicine, as seen in the rod of Asclepius, a symbol of healing in Greek mythology and similar traditions in Egypt and other cultures. The serpent's ability to shed its skin was linked to renewal and restoration. In various ancient religions, the serpent symbolized the vital energy of the earth and the cyclical nature of life and earth. Serpents were often seen as possessing secret knowledge and magical powers. The Ophites were a prominent Gnostic sect whose very name indicates the central role of the serpent in their theology. The Ophites revered the serpent as a divine principle, a manifestation of the divine wisdom or even the divine itself. They saw the serpent as the force that brought Gnosis to humanity and facilitated their spiritual awakening. Their intricate diagrams often featured a serpent, sometimes entwined around a tree which represents the tree of knowledge or the tree of life, or coiled around cosmic spheres, symbolizing the underlying spiritual force animating the universe. These diagrams were likely used as aids for meditation and understanding their complex cosmology. Some early Christian writers who were hostile to the Ophites reported that their rituals involved the presence of a live spirit. While the accuracy and interpretation of these accounts are debated, they underscore the profound significance of the serpent within their practice. So while the Ophites gave the serpent a particularly central role, Its positive or complex symbolism extended to other Gnostic schools as well. The Nazarenes, possibly related to the Ophites, their name comes from the Hebrew word for serpent, Nahash, also emphasized the serpent's role in bringing knowledge. Even with the more complex emanational systems of Valentinianism, the concept of Sophia and her yearning for knowledge often connects to the liberating role attributed to the serpent in other Gnostic myths. The Gnostic embrace of the serpent, as a symbol of wisdom, knowledge, transformation, and even the divine, represents a radical departure from the mainstream Judeo-Christian condemnation of the creature. By reinterpreting the Genesis narrative and drawing upon older, more diverse cultural associations, Gnostics saw the serpent as a key figure in humanity's spiritual awakening and a potent emblem of the liberating power of Gnosis. The Ophites, with their explicit reverence for the serpent, stand as a powerful testament to this unique and significant aspect of Gnostic symbolism. Unlike the often rehabilitated image of the serpent in Gnosticism, the cross carries a set of meanings within this tradition that, while powerful, frequently diverge from its orthodox Christian understanding. For many Gnostic systems, the cross wasn't primarily a symbol of suffering, but a fundamental representation of the structure of the cosmos. It symbolized the point where the spiritual, the vertical axis, and material, the horizontal axis, realms, intersected. This intersection was often seen as a point of tension, conflict, and potential for interaction and even redemption. The four arms of the cross could also represent the four elements: fire, water, air, and earth. And that constitutes the material world, a realm often viewed with suspicion or negativity. And alternatively, they could symbolize fundamental cosmic qualities or principles. In some Valentinian systems, the intersection of the vertical and horizontal could represent the Ogdoad, the first 8 eons of the Pleroma, the fullness of the divine realm. The central point of intersection could symbolize the source or pivotal point within this divine structure. The cross, in this cosmic sense, became a framework upon which the entire created order was understood, a map of the spiritual descent into matter and the potential for ascent back to the divine. The vertical axis of the cross could also be interpreted as a spiritual ladder or pathway for the soul's ascent from the darkness and limitations of the material world towards the light and freedom of the spiritual realm. The act of embracing or understanding the cross in this context could symbolize the soul's struggle to overcome its entanglement with the material and to realize its true divine nature. The intersection of the vertical and horizontal could also represent the necessary balance and equilibrium the soul needs to achieve on its journey of spiritual ascent, integrating different aspects of its being. The Docetic view, which is prevalent in some Gnostic schools, held that Christ's physical body was not real, but rather an illusion or a phantasm. This belief stemmed from the Gnostic understanding that a purely divine being could not truly be subjected to the suffering and degradation of the material world, which was often seen as inherently evil. For Docetic Gnostics, the crucifixion was not a literal act of suffering and death for a divine being. Instead, the cross and the crucifixion became symbolic representations of Christ's role as a spiritual revealer. His death could also symbolize the shedding of illusion and the revelation of true knowledge. It could also mirror the soul's own process of shedding its material attachments and ascending to the spiritual realm. Even the appearance of suffering could be seen as a symbolic victory of the divine over the limitations of the physical. Some Gnostic texts, like the Acts of John, describe a cross of light revealed to the Apostle John during the crucifixion. This cross is not a physical instrument of torture, but a spiritual reality representing Christ's true luminous nature that remained untouched by the material events. The physical crucifixion was seen as a misunderstanding by those who could not perceive the spiritual truth. So, the Gnostic understanding of the cross transcended its singular meaning within Orthodox Christianity. It became a potent symbol imbued with cosmic, spiritual, and even Christological significance that aligned with their unique theological framework, often emphasizing the spiritual over the material and the importance of inner knowledge for salvation. The Docetic interpretation further transformed the crucifixion from a literal historical event of suffering into a symbolic representation of spiritual truths. Beyond the intersecting lines of the cross, the circle emerges in Gnostic thought as a powerful symbol of ultimate unity in the infinite nature of the divine source. The circle, with its continuous unbroken line and lack of beginning or end, naturally embodies the Gnostic concept of the monad, also known as the one or the absolute. The monad is the ultimate transcendent source of all existence, in a perfect and indivisible unity that precedes all differentiation and emanation. The circle visually represents this self-contained, complete nature of the primal source. The cyclical nature of a circle further reinforces the idea of eternity in the timeless realm from which the monad originates and to which all spiritual beings ultimately aspire to return. It transcends the linear progression of time and the limitations of the material world. The circle, being a geometric form without physical substance, also reflects the incorporeal and purely spiritual nature attributed to the monad in the higher realms of the pleroma. The pleroma is the Gnostic term for the realm of the divine, and it's the home of the monad in the various eons. The circle serves as a powerful symbol for the wholeness and completeness of this divine realm. It encompasses all the diverse aspects and powers of the divine within its unbroken boundary. The continuous line of the circle visually emphasizes the interconnectedness and interdependence of all beings within the pleroma. Despite their individual identities, the eons are a part of a unified and harmonious whole, emanating from and ultimately returning to the monad. The circle symbolizes this fundamental unity within diversity. The circle can also be seen as a container holding the fullness of the divine. It acts as a boundary separating the perfect and luminous pleroma from the chaotic darkness and deficiency of the lower material realms created by the demiurge. Sometimes Gnostic imagery depicts a point within the circle. This potent symbol further elaborates on the nature of the monad and its relationship to the cosmos. The central point represents the monad itself, the unmanifest and undifferentiated source from which all emanates. The circle surrounding the point can symbolize the emanation of the pleroma and the subsequent unfolding of the cosmos from the central origin. The distance from the center could represent the degree of separation from the perfect unity of the monad. The point within the circle can also be seen as the divine spark present within each individual soul, a fragment of the monad trapped within the material body. The goal of Gnosis is to recognize and nurture this inner point of divinity, allowing it to expand and reconnect with the encompassing wholeness of the pleroma symbolized by the circle. So, the circle in Gnosticism is a profound and multifaceted symbol that encapsulates the core of their cosmology and soteriology. It represents the ultimate source of being, the perfect and eternal realm of the divine, the interconnectedness of all spiritual beings, and the potential for the individual soul to recognize its own divine origin and return to the encompassing unity of the monad. Its simplicity belies a depth of meaning that speaks to the fundamental principles of Gnostic thought. Building upon the understanding of the circle as a symbol of perfect unity and the unmanifest source, Gnostic cosmology also employed another potent image to describe the genesis of existence, the cosmic egg, a visual brimming with potential and the promise of creation. The cosmic egg in Gnostic thought often represents the state of the universe before differentiation and manifestation. It's the unformed, pregnant void containing the latent potential for all that will come into being. This resonates with numerous ancient creation myths where the cosmos emerges from a primordial egg. Within the shell of the cosmic egg lies the seed of all creation, the undifferentiated substance or energy from which the various realms, beings, and forces will eventually emanate. This emphasizes the idea that the universe didn't arise from nothing, but from a pre-existing state of potential. The egg acts as a container holding within it the elements and principles that will later separate and take form. It suggests a period of incubation or gestation before the cosmos is quote-unquote born. The act of the cosmic egg cracking open symbolizes the emergence or emanation of the different levels of reality, including the pleroma and the lower material realms. This breaking forth can be seen as a chaotic or even traumatic event in some Gnostic myths, particularly in relation to the fall of Sophia and the subsequent creation by the demiurge. In some interpretations, the cosmic egg can be associated with the birth or manifestation of key divine beings or even principles within the Gnostic cosmology. On a microcosmic level, the cosmic egg can represent the individual human soul in its unawakened state, containing the potential for spiritual realization and Gnosis. The shell of the egg can symbolize the material body or the limitations of the earthly existence that encase the divine spark within. The journey of Gnosis is akin to breaking free from the shell to realize one's true spiritual nature. Just as a chick hatches from an egg, the cosmic egg symbolizes spiritual rebirth and transformation. And through Gnosis and the shedding of ignorance, the soul can undergo a profound metamorphosis leading to its liberation and ascent to the higher realm. The egg, with its hidden contents, can also represent the mystery of the soul's origin and its ultimate destiny. Just as one cannot know what will hatch from an egg until it breaks open, the true potential and fate of the soul are revealed through the process of spiritual awakening. The cosmic egg can also be seen as an initial manifestation or stage emanating from the monad, the ultimate source. The breaking of the egg can sometimes be linked to the fall of Sophia, whose actions led to the creation of the imperfect material world. The fully formed cosmos that emerges from the egg is the pleroma. In essence, the cosmic egg in Gnosticism is a potent symbol of potentiality, origin, birth, both cosmic and individual, and the transformative journey of the soul towards spiritual awakening and liberation from the confines of the material world. Its resonance with ancient creation myths highlights the Gnostic engagement with broader cosmological ideas while imbuing them with their own unique theological interpretations. Where the cosmic egg suggested nascent possibility, the labyrinth in Gnostic symbolism painted a different picture, one of intricate pathways and deceptive turns, representing the soul's challenging journey through the material realm. In Gnostic cosmology, the archons are seen as powerful, malevolent, or at least ignorant beings who rule the material world. They are emanations of the demiurge and actively seek to keep human souls trapped in ignorance and prevent their ascent to the higher realms. The labyrinth vividly embodies this sense of entrapment within a confusing and deceptive reality orchestrated by these powers. The winding paths and dead ends of the labyrinth symbolize the illusions and deceptions of the material world. The archons create these false realities to mislead and disorient the soul, making it forget its true divine origin and the path to liberation. The labyrinth becomes a metaphor for the sensory world and its fleeting pleasures and pains, which can distract the soul from its spiritual quest. The intricate structure of the labyrinth reflects the inherent complexity and difficulty of navigating the material existence. The soul encounters numerous challenges, temptations, and setbacks on its journey, mirroring the twists and turns of the maze. Successfully navigating the labyrinth requires inner work, introspection, and deep self-knowledge. The soul must explore its own inner landscape, confronting its attachments to the material world, and discern truth from illusion. Each turn in the maze can represent a stage of self-discovery. Finding the center requires discernment and the ability to see beyond the surface appearance of the material world. The soul must learn to recognize the subtle signs and inner guidance that lead towards the true path, avoiding the many false leads and dead ends presented by the archons and the illusions of the material realm. The labyrinth can also symbolize the inner struggles and demons that the soul must confront on its path to Gnosis. These could be negative emotions, ingrained beliefs, or attachments that hinder spiritual progress. Navigating the maze becomes a process of facing and overcoming these inner obstacles. While not always explicitly stated in Gnostic texts, in the same way as the Greek myth, the concept of a guiding thread like Ariadne's thread helping Theseus escape the Minotaur's labyrinth can be seen as analogous to Gnosis itself. Gnosis acts as the thread that guides the soul through the confusing maze of the material world. Reaching the center of the labyrinth symbolizes the attainment of Gnosis and spiritual liberation. It represents escaping the confines of the material world and realizing one's true divine nature. The central point is the destination of the soul's arduous journey, and a place of understanding, freedom, and reunion with the higher realms. The labyrinth in Gnostic symbolism is a powerful metaphor for the human condition, the soul's entrapment in a complex and deceptive material world ruled by hindering forces. The act of navigating this labyrinth represents a difficult but essential inner journey of seeking self-knowledge and Gnosis, the key to escaping the maze and achieving spiritual liberation. It underscores the Gnostic emphasis on personal, internal transformation as the path to salvation. In contrast to the labyrinth's symbolic representation of worldly confusion, isopsophy provided Gnostics with a seemingly precise method, assigning numerical values to letters to decipher the underlying order of the cosmos. So Gnostics, influenced by Pythagorean and other ancient philosophical traditions, saw numbers as fundamental principles underlying the cosmos. By assigning numerical values to letters of the Greek alphabet, they believed they could decode the deeper numerical harmonies and relationships that governed the universe and the divine realm. Isopsophy allowed Gnostics to find numerical equivalences between seemingly unrelated words and names. These equivalences were not seen as coincidental, but as evidence of deeper hidden connections and shared underlying principles. For instance, if the name of a divine eon added up to the same number as a cosmic force or a key concept, it was interpreted as a significant revelation about their interconnectedness and essential nature. The numerical values of divine names and the names of eons were considered particularly significant. By understanding these numerical signatures, Gnostics believed that they could gain a deeper understanding of the powers and attributes of these spiritual entities and potentially invoke or interact with them on a spiritual level. The numerical relationships uncovered through isopsephy were seen as reflecting the inherent harmony and order within the cosmos, even amidst the apparent chaos of the material world. These numerical patterns were believed to be echoes of the perfect mathematical structures that underlay the divine pleroma. Some early Christians and Gnostic writers explored the numerical value of the Greek name Iousis, which adds up to 888. They sought to find significance in this number and its relationship to other concepts or divine attributes. The numerical value of Sophia would also have been analyzed for its connection to other Gnostic ideas related to divine wisdom and the creation process. While this example comes from a text often at odds with Gnostic thought, the very act of trying to decode the number 666 through isopsephy illustrates the widespread belief in the hidden significance of numerical values of names and words in the ancient world. Some Gnostic interpretations of this number likely differed from mainstream Christian views. Gnostic amulets and talismans often featured divine names and seemingly cryptic letter combinations. Isopsephy suggests that the numerical value of these inscriptions were not arbitrary, but were carefully chosen to invoke specific spiritual powers or offer protection based on their numerical resonance. The complex emanational hierarchies of Gnostic systems, with their specific numbers of eons and their relationships, may have been partly informed by numerological considerations and the desire to create a cosmologically coherent system based on numerical principles. It's important to understand that Gnostic isopsephy was not just about simple addition. It involved a deeper engagement with the symbolic meaning of numbers themselves, drawing on Pythagorean philosophy where numbers were seen as archetypal principles. The process of finding numerical equivalences was a form of mystical exegesis, a way of uncovering hidden layers of meaning within language and revealing the underlying numerical fabric of reality. The Gnostic use of isopsephy was a sophisticated practice that went beyond mere word puzzles. It was a fundamental aspect of their cosmology and theology, a belief that the numerical values of letters and words held profound secrets about the divine realm, the structure of the universe, and the interconnectedness of all things. By deciphering these numerical codes, Gnostics sought to gain deeper gnosis and a more profound understanding of the hidden truths of existence. The Gnostic exploration of a numerically structured cosmos led them to profound insights about humanity's origins and potential, embodied in the concept of the anthropos, a perfect primordial being envisioned in the divine realms. So the anthropos is often envisioned as the first archetypal human being that existed in the pleroma before the creation of the material world and the earthly atom. The primordial human is not bound by the limitations and imperfections of the physical body. Instead, it embodies perfection, luminosity, and complete unity with the divine. The anthropos is sometimes seen as the summation of all the divine powers within the pleroma. In some Gnostic systems, the anthropos is even considered the visible image or manifestation of the otherwise unknowable transcendent God. Just as a reflection reveals the form of the original, the anthropos reveals something of the nature of the ultimate divine reality. The anthropos is sometimes referred to as Adamus, drawing a connection to the Hebrew word for earth, but signifying a heavenly unfallen Adam distinct from the Adam of the Genesis story who succumbed to the material realm. Because the earthly human is believed to be fashioned after the anthropos, each individual possesses a fragment or spark of its primordial divine being within them, the pneuma or the spirit. This inner self is the true essence of humanity, often obscured and forgotten due to its entanglement with the material body and the illusions of the created world. The central aim of Gnosis is to awaken this inner anthropos, to realize one's true identity as a being of light and divine origin. The journey of Gnosis is ultimately a process of reconnecting the individual anthropos with the cosmic anthropos and the higher spiritual realms of which it originated. It's important to note that the concept of the anthropos varied across different Gnostic schools. In Valentinianism, the anthropos and its consort ecclesia, the church, understood as the heavenly archetype, were often placed as high eons within the pleroma emanating from the Father and silence. They played a crucial role in the unfolding of the divine drama. Mani himself was seen as the final prophet and the manifestation of the anthropos. While not strictly Gnostic, the Hermetic text Poimandres features a similar figure of the primordial man or the divine mind, who is the first emanation of the divine and the archetype of humanity. This highlights the broader intellectual context in which the Gnostic anthropos arose. The concept of the anthropos is central to Gnosticism because it establishes humanity's divine potential. It assumes that humans are not merely creatures of the material world, but possess an inherent connection to the divine. It provides a goal for the spiritual practice, which is the realization that the inner anthropos becomes the ultimate objective of Gnostic striving. The entrapment of the anthropos spark in the material body explains the suffering and ignorance experienced in the world. It gives humanity a path to salvation and return to their divine origin. The anthropos in Gnosticism is a powerful and multifaceted symbol representing both the primordial perfect human in the higher realm and the true divine self within each individual. Its realization is the ultimate goal of Gnostic spiritual practice, signifying the reconnection with one's divine origins and liberation from the material world. While the anthropos offered a vision of humanity's ideal form, Gnostic cosmology also presented more complex and mysterious figures such as Abraxas, whose composite nature and amuletic presence suggest a synthesis of powerful cosmic energies. Depending on the specific Gnostic system, Abraxas was sometimes considered the supreme overarching deity, the source of all emanations and the ruler of the entire cosmos, including the 365 heavens. In other systems, particularly that of the Basilides, Abraxas was a very high and powerful eon, but not necessarily the ultimate transcendent god. The association with the 365 days of the solar year suggests a pantheistic interpretation where Abraxas embodies the totality of cosmic time and the cyclical nature of the universe, and this aligns with some Gnostic views that saw the divine as immanent within creation, even if that creation was flawed. The composite nature of Abraxas' depiction, the rooster falcon head, which represents vigilance, foresight, and solar associations, a human torso, which represents humanity or the anthropos, and serpent legs, yes, I paused there too, hold on, wisdom, transformation, earthly connection, serpent legs, okay, suggests a unification of diverse and even seemingly contradictory forces within a single entity. This reflects the Gnostic tendency to see the divine as encompassing all aspects of reality, even those perceived as negative. The 2nd century Gnostic teacher Basilides is most strongly associated with Abraxas. He taught that Abraxas was the great archon of the 365 heavens, each corresponding to a day of the year and governed by its own spiritual power. This intricate cosmology emphasized a hierarchical structure of the spiritual realm emanating from Abraxas. The numerical equivalent of Abraxas, which is 893 in Greek isopsophy, though sometimes associated with 365 through a different calculation or understanding of the letters, to the days of the solar year strongly link Abraxas to cosmic time, cycles, and movement of the sun. This could imply a connection to the ordering principles of the universe and the unfolding of destiny. The exact nature of Abraxas, whether a benevolent supreme being, a neutral cosmic force, or even a potentially ambiguous or flawed entity, remains a subject of scholarly debate. Some later occult traditions have even associated Abraxas with demonic figures, highlighting the complex and evolving interpretations of the symbol. The composite iconography of Abraxas likely reflects the syncretistic nature of Gnosticism, drawing upon imagery from Egyptian, Greco-Roman, and Persian religious traditions. The rooster head could relate to solar deities, the serpent to wisdom figures, and the human torso to the anthropos. The frequent appearance of Abraxas on amulets and gems indicates its use in magical practices for protection, power, and attracting good fortune. The inscribed letters and composite image were believed to hold potent, energetic, and spiritual significance. Abraxas is a powerful Gnostic symbol that embodies cosmic power, the cyclical nature of time, and the unification of diverse forces. Its association with the number 365 and its unique iconography point to a complex theological and cosmological understanding of the divine and its relationship to the universe. While its precise meaning remains debated, Abraxas stands as a testament to the rich and often enigmatic nature of Gnostic thought. Diversity within Gnosticism cannot be overstated. It's not a monolithic entity. Numerous distinct schools and teachers arose, each with its own unique interpretation of core myths, theological concepts, and cosmological structures. Consequently, the same symbol could carry different nuances and even entirely different meanings depending on the specific Gnostic group employing it. For example, as we discussed, the serpent held a revered position for the Ophites directly linked to divine wisdom. But within Valentinianism, while Sophia's actions might be indirectly linked to the serpent's role in Genesis, the serpent itself might not hold the same level of explicit veneration. Valentinians had their own complex system of eons and their interactions, and their symbolic language often revolved around these divine emanations. Some symbols might have even been localized or regional significance within specific Gnostic communities, drawing on local myths or artistic traditions. The meaning of a symbol might have also evolved over time within a particular Gnostic lineage as their theological understanding developed or interacted with new ideas. To truly understand a Gnostic symbol, scholars must meticulously analyze the specific texts and artistic representations associated with particular Gnostic systems. The context within the Apocryphon of John will likely yield a different understanding of a symbol than its appearance on a Basilidian amulet. A symbol rarely stands alone. Its meaning is often deeply intertwined with the accompanying visual elements. For instance, a cross flanked by specific eons in a Valentinian diagram will have a different significance than a cross entwined by a serpent in an Ophite depiction. The spatial relationships, the attributes of surrounding figures, and the overall composition contribute to the symbol's interpretation. When symbols appear alongside inscriptions or textual passages, these can provide important clues to their intended meaning. Gnostic texts often interpret their own symbols, though these interpretations can be allegorical and require careful unpacking. The Gospel of Truth, for example, offers symbolic interpretations of various spiritual states and concepts. If a symbol is associated with a known Gnostic ritual, understanding the purpose and structure of that ritual can illuminate the symbol's function and significance within the specific practice. Some symbols might have held personal mystical significance for individual Gnostics engaged in private contemplation, while others had a more standardized communal meaning within the broader sect. Gnostic symbols are often visual shorthand for complex creation myths, the fall of Sophia, the emergence of the demiurge, and the soul's journey of descent and ascent. Understanding these overarching narratives is essential for grasping the symbolic language used to represent them. The symbol of a descending or ascending figure might directly relate to the Gnostic understanding of the soul's trajectory. The intricate hierarchies of the pleroma and the lower realms were often depicted symbolically. The arrangement and attributes of different figures in geometric shapes could represent the relationships and powers within those spiritual hierarchies. Symbols often pointed towards the Gnostic path to salvation. Symbols of light, ascent, or union with higher powers could be relevant in this context. Familiarity with the core Gnostic terms like monad, eon, demiurge, Sophia, and archon is crucial for interpreting these symbols that represent or relate to these concepts. Gnosticism emerged in a vibrant Hellenistic world where religious and philosophical ideas were constantly interacting. Gnostics freely adopted and adapted symbols from various traditions, which included the Ankh or the scarab, the caduceus, the Ouroboros, or light and dark dualism imagery from Persia, Kabbalistic-like numerical and alphabetical symbolism, though it was often reinterpreted. While Gnostics diverged significantly, they sometimes used and reinterpreted Christian symbols like the cross or figures of Christ and the apostles within their own framework. This syncretism means that a single symbol could carry multiple layers of meaning, both its original significance in the source of tradition and its new Gnostic interpretation. Deciphering requires an awareness of these potential dual or even multiple valences. The specific Gnostic text or the archaeological context where a symbol is found can often provide clues about which syncretic influences are most relevant to its interpretation. By carefully considering these four interconnected aspects, scholars can move beyond the superficial interpretations and begin to unravel the rich and complex hidden meanings embedded within Gnostic symbols, gaining deeper insights into the diverse and fascinating world of Gnostic thought.